Anarchapulco 2024. We're back in the VIP podcast lounge, back at the Secret Garden. It's been an amazing week so far, and we're constantly running into old friends, new acquaintances, amazing people. We've had some of them on this show, and a few interesting characters. There's no shortage of them here this week, folks. There's some great entrepreneurs. We've got people in all sorts of different sectors, a lot of innovators and activists and people that are involved in politics, geopolitics. And I'm going to introduce a couple of people here. Max Igan. I don't know how to describe you. I'm not going to dare put you into a box or put a title on you, but we'll talk about why you're here in Mexico. And David, we just met.
Yes, we did.
And I know you've also got a background in radio. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't know that from his voice.
In this little voice, I know. Why do people say it's so nice, man?
Like Steve Falconer, you've got one of those gold voices for radio.
Why, thank you.
Looking forward to talking to you about that. Max, it's been a while, mate.
Pleasure to be here, brother. It really has been years since we did a podcast together, like back at AV in
England.
In England, yeah.
Little old England.
Yeah, little old England, yeah. What did that turn into?
And now you're in Mexico.
Yeah.
Which is kind of far from your home country, from the bush.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Of Australia.
The way I just left there and all my accounts got frozen and my whole life got cancelled everywhere, and here I am in Mexico like nearly 3 years later, and it's incredible.
Was this you're talking about the COVID era?
The COVID era, yeah, when I left.
They call it. The pandemic is...
Yeah, the scamdemic. And I left halfway through and they froze all my stuff, they froze my accounts, and I was totally like a fish out of water when I was here in Mexico when I first arrived. And now, nearly 3 years later, and I'm just doing great. It's a fantastic. It was a really, really good change. Great to be here in the Secret Garden. I mean, this place is incredible, and I think it'll be very difficult for me to go back and live in the West after being here for 2.5 years. So yeah, it's been good.
So you guys, Jeff Berwick, Anarchapulco, they've kind of created a community in here. There's a little bit of a interesting enclave, to say the least, of people from all over the world, people from Mexico as well who've come here. I've met some people from this country who've come to this event too. A lot of interesting characters come together. They've kind of integrated with the community here. I know you're very much integrated with the community here. You've even got a venue here.
Yeah,
which is
just kind of fell into my lap. It's amazing.
I thought the Crow House was a website.
Well, it was, and now it's a restaurant and bar as well. I went into a partnership with 4 other people, and we had a little bar last year, which was one that I kind of took over from someone. It was plummeting and dying. And I took it over for a couple of months and ended up with all the equipment from the bar when I left. And my friends were saying, well, let's open a new one. And we just did. We did it in 10 days. That whole place that you went to, we did all that in 10 days.
Amazing.
And it's been incredible. It's been absolutely incredible. We had the best night I think I've ever had last night. It was incredible. Jam session with David Alcock, Wolf playing drums, and I'm going to take my gear over there and have a big jam tonight. It's going to be great, and I've really landed on my feet here, and like you say, integrated into the community. I've created this venue, and it brings a lot of people to the area, which spills out to all the other businesses around the area. So they really love having me here because it brings all the crowd to them, and we all just kind of work together, and it's a fantastic community, and I love being here.
So, back in the 80s, you remember the Van Halen, you remember that rock band?
Yeah.
Eddie Van Halen did. So they opened a bar in Cabo San Lucas called Cabo Wabo, and it became a nightclub. And they brought all these bands down, and they kind of turned it for a while anyway, while the band was kind of together before Sammy Hagar came in, you know what I mean? But, sorry. But they turned it into basically a place on the tour list, a place where musicians will want to go to play.
Yeah.
And have you got a kind of similar ideas?
It's just an organic thing. I'm just letting it develop into what it wants to develop into, but I think that will happen. I mean, that happened with the last place, and it seems to be happening with this place as well. I mean, it's just an organic thing. Everything seems to be organically growing around.
You've got that beautiful band stage, and it's like a rotunda center of attention, and it was activated last night because I saw you when you just opened. Then when you put the music in, it's a totally different thing.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. So yeah, I'm loving it. This is an incredible event this year too. This has been really, really good, folks. Like, such a high vibe with people. And I'm not exhausted the way I was last year. Last year I was sick. I could hardly even talk to anyone. This year it's just been pumping. I've been connecting with so many people, and it's been incredible. Really, really high energy people here. It's really good.
So Max, you were here during when the hurricane. I assume you're here for the
I
hurricane.
wasn't here.
You were out.
I was out for the hurricane. I was in San Diego, and I was due to fly back to Acapulco that day, and I just thought, nah, I should go to Texas for a couple of days. And I just did, and the hurricane hit that night. It's the way it works with me. I've missed two hurricanes and two...
was functioning
I've
well.
missed two hurricanes and two earthquakes since I've been here. It's just ridiculous. And Spirit just guides me around. It's like when I left Australia, I left a week before they came and visited my house and wanted to see me, accused me of threatening police officers and all sorts of stuff I wasn't doing. And then when I came to Mexico, I was thinking, like I was going to stay in the United States for 3 months. I thought, no, I've got to go to Mexico now. And I came in with a 6-month visa, and then the next day they changed it to 30-day visas. Mm-hmm. So all this stuff kind of just happens, and I just let Spirit guide me, and it just kind of works. Yeah, it's amazing.
I think it's really cool that with all the destruction and the damage from the hurricane, you built something new and brought something, added something to this place. And it's, for this event, having your venue just pretty much across the road is a great sort of outlet for people to go afterwards to kind of, download what they've talked about during the day and like you kind of balance out before they go to bed and stuff like that.
Yeah, just connect with people and have a bit of a party and let off some steam, and it's been really, really good. And we've had like open mics, anyone can get up and jam, and it's just really, really good. It's been fantastic.
Crow House, amazing. You've made the transition from the digital world to the brick and mortar world.
Well, back to where I was.
It's the other way around.
That's
People
where
have a
I
brick
went.
and mortar business, it disappears and becomes a website.
That's where I started, It's interesting, like I spent my whole life as a musician and sound engineer touring around, being on stage and doing all these things, gathering all these life skills, which allows me to get up on stage and do all these talks and stuff now with no stage fright and all that sort of stuff because I spent my life on stage. So, you go through life and you gain all these skills, you don't realise how they're related, and then suddenly something like this happens and it all comes together and it all just flows because, you've done so many aspects of it before without ever planning any of this. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I want to talk about what's going on in the world with you as well, Max, in a moment. But David, just introduce yourself here. Anarchapulco 2024. What on earth? What brought you here?
What brought me here was Charlie Robinson. Last year he was talking about it, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but it's as if there was a calling for me to come. And I tried to make it last year, but logistically it just couldn't happen. And that little voice never shut up in the back of my head, and it kept saying, you need to come down. I didn't know why, but it said, you need to come down. So as soon as it was announced, I got hold of Charlie, got his macro promo code, got everything booked, and then a couple weeks later, the hurricane hit. And it was one of those almost, I don't know if surreal is the correct word, but I'm like, what do I do now? I've all this money invested into this thing, and I don't know if it's going to happen. Then I was watching Rick on Jeff's, on the Dollar Vigilante, and he says it's back on, and I'm like, well, then it's meant to be. And I have to say, I don't have the words to fully articulate the experience that I've had here. It's my first time. To sum it up, I guess the easiest way to say it's been magical and surreal at the exact same time. Here's a perfect example. I'm sitting next to you, Max. I've been watching
You got the
your
best
work.
radio voice I've ever heard.
Thank you.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It served me well. But I've been watching your work for years now. And here I am, sitting next to you on TNT radio with you, Patrick.
We're not on TNT now. We're not live. We're not, because the internet went down.
Oh, okay.
So this will probably be broadcast on 21 Wire Live.
The 21 Wire. Sorry, but gave you a good plug for TNT.
Yeah, as
anyways,
well. Give a plug for why not?
Yeah, why not? Man, they're good people. So just an example of what being surreal is I'm sitting next to you, right? I've met you at your club. You've agreed to come onto my show. And I don't know how to describe the feeling that I'm having in this whole experience. So that's pretty much my little story about my journey down here. It's life-changing. And I knew coming down here, my intuition said, I'm not going to be the same person I am when I come back.
No.
And it is so true. You know, I had Charlie on right before I came here. And I told him I'm coming down with zero expectations. I don't know who I'm going to meet. I don't know what I'm going to experience. And he said, Dave, you got the right attitude. And he also said, you are going to have opportunities presented to you that you don't even know exist. And he was true to his word. And I have to say, I love Anarchapulco. I'm going to make an effort to come back again. And I finally found my tribe. I really have. I've had these experiences where I'm very introverted. Well, not very, but I am introverted. So in large crowds, I feel isolated. This is the first time I've ever been to an event that I can go up and it's consistent. I can strike up a conversation with a complete stranger, and by the time we're done, I have a new friend. And it has been 100%. So it goes back into the surreal and magical.
Yeah, pretty much across the board. I've had the same experience.
Yeah.
You're no stranger to media, though.
No,
So you've got a podcast, or two podcasts?
No, I just have one podcast.
You got the one. So yeah, tell us about your podcast and your background in media and radio.
My podcast is Naughty by Nature with Nature Boy, and naughty is spelled Nauti as in nautical, which is very apropos for me. And I started it, just at the beginning of the year. I was a producer for another podcast for a couple of years. I've been pre-COVID. I was producing a lot of live music events, concerts, festivals, as well as doing MC work. Initially, I got turned onto radio just out of a happenstance. I was living in this little town in Oregon called Eugene, and they had this community radio station called KRVM. So I went down and I volunteered on what they call begathons, just to answer phones. And one thing led to another. Next thing you know, I got a show. And I did radio while I lived down there. When I moved up to Sacramento in 2000s, I started getting involved with the local arts community. So that's where I was doing a lot of live events, producing them. And then through the NAACP, I fell into emceeing.
NAACP.
Amazing. I was part of a blues organization, and they came to us for the Rhythm and Blues Festival at the California Fairgrounds. It said, will you produce the blues set? Okay, no problem. So we're in a production meeting, and they said, went around the table, who do you have for your MC? Who do you have for your MC? And they said, Dave, who do you have for your MC? And I was like, the what? And then my buddy Akil says, why don't you do it? You got a good voice. I said, yeah, but I don't got the gift of gab. And Cynthia Brooks, the leader of it, is just one of the most amazing women I've ever met. She looked at me with that country accent and says, oh, don't worry, honey. We're all down folk ham around here. You'll do fine. One thing led to another. I was doing MC work up until COVID hit. And like almost everybody that I've talked to here, once that hit, all my jobs dried up. And I essentially became a pariah in the arts community. And that's when I built a broadcast studio without any intention. I just knew if you build it, they will come. And that's why I started producing podcasts. And here I am today, talking and sitting next to you, Max, and you, Patrick. I've been following your work for years. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, both of us, I would say, we're probably going to end up being on your podcast.
Yes, you will.
In the near future.
Once again, it comes back to the magic of this event.
No, that's great. And it's a great story, too, how you kind of fell into this and worked, the universe or whatever, the forces of whichever moved you onto those paths.
One thing I've learned is when you give, and you give sincerely with your heart, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, gives you back things in droves, and things that you don't even know you needed or you even had the talent or the ability to do. So,
and Max, I remember being at an AV in the UK. This was probably 2015, 2016, and what happened in 2014 in Gaza was huge. Operation Protective Edge, as the Israelis call it, and you gave a talk on Gaza, and that wasn't necessarily at the forefront of everybody, because the Syrian war was raging by then. There was other things that are happening in the world. That was what you did your talk on, because you had just came back, or you'd recently been to Gaza. And I know we don't have time to hear the the long form version of that story. You could probably give us a little synopsis for people who don't know, who might be watching this. But suffice to say, that was a life-changing experience for you, or that really just blew your mind.
Yeah, well, you go to Gaza, you hear all these things about Palestine and what it's really like, and I just went there. We snuck in through a rebel tunnel. We didn't tell anybody we were coming.
From Egypt.
From Egypt, or from the Sinai through Rafah. And we were like a little tiny tunnel. It was only like this high, you know.
Were there light bulbs in there, like Christmas lights?
There were light bulbs at every turn, like which might be 500 meters away. Like,
so you're kind of in the dark.
we had a little torch, little tiny torch. We're crawling on our hands and knees.
It's dirt.
It's dirt. Dirt tunnel, 50 meters underground. Crawl through underground for probably an hour and a half, crawling on our hands and knees to get into Gaza. And we didn't tell anyone we were coming. And when I got in there, it was a world of children. It was just children, like so many children that I've never seen so many children in one city, all over the streets. The average age in Gaza is 17. When you look at it all, and these are terrorists, we're told. And I went in there. I ran around with a video camera for 10 days and started filming things. And there was nothing like what they told us Gaza was really like. And I just thought, well, okay, this is what's really going on. Even while I was there, we did YouTube videos and posted it on YouTube, and we're halfway through a podcast and there's pounding on the door, and it's Hamas come knocking on the door halfway through a podcast to ask us if we could come into the Ministry of Interior the next day to explain our presence in Gaza. I thought, that's pretty good. If I was in another country, they'd just arrest me and take me to jail for illegally entering their country. When we left the country, Hamas ended up taking my passport, held that for 8 or 9 days, which is a trippy feeling. You're kind of in Gaza with no passport. I'm a Palestinian now. And when we left, they interrogated us for 5 hours trying to find out how we got into the country. Their interrogation consisted of tea and biscuits and nice conversations. And when they figured out that we couldn't tell them how we got into the country, they provided a driver to get me back to Cairo safely. This is the terrorist organization of Hamas, right? That's my experience with them. They were amazing. It was incredible. And I started to realize just how much rubbish and how much disinformation is presented around Gaza. And what they're saying there, this is a war. It's not a war. It takes two armies to have a war. And what I saw in Gaza was a form of warehousing and surplusing human beings. And I said then, if we do not heal this is the greatest moral dilemma we face in the world today. And if we do not face ourselves enough to heal this problem, then the way of Gaza will be the way of the world. And you look what's happened through COVID, the depopulation, the jabs, different strokes for different folks. They can't just go in and bomb everybody into oblivion the way they've done in Gaza, but they can kill us in other ways. And I believe a lot of it is through our moral obligation to deal with this and our failure to deal with this problem. We've allowed this to happen. And my argument is that the only way Israel is able to get away with this is through all the funding it receives from Western governments. This is what your politicians in your country are funding. Well, Israel's a welfare state. And if they're going to fund this, then what do you think they have planned for you? This is a population of children. They're just going and slaughtering them. It's a genocide. It's not a war. They just go and randomly kill, rape, pillage and plunder. And I've found with Israel, all of the accusations they put against Hamas, with Israel, every accusation is a confession. This is what they do to the Palestinian people. And that's what I witnessed firsthand. And I didn't even want to leave. There was one little girl, I'd built a schoolroom for these people. And when I was leaving, went to say goodbye, and she's going, Max, I can fit in your suitcase. And I'm going, yeah, I know you can, and I would love to take you with me. And I promised her that I would come back to see her. And I've tried to get back there for years. That was 2012 I went in there. It's now 12 years later, and I still haven't been able to get back in. And all those people dropped out of contact over the last little while, and now I've got one friend that I know is still alive left in Gaza. And it's an incredibly important issue. And total respect for you, Patrick, because you are one of the only other podcasters that I heard out there through this last incursion who's been speaking out about what's going on in Gaza, because it is so important. And
what do you think about, Max, that calling for us, did you ever think you would see the day that calling for a ceasefire became a controversial statement?
Exactly.
Exactly. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm calling for a ceasefire, and I'm pointing out the genocide that Israel is carrying out in Gaza over the last few weeks, and I got banned from Twitter for violent hate speech, right, for calling for an end to genocide and a ceasefire. It's all backwards. It's completely backwards. And who would have thought that it would have come to this? But the thing is, I mean, Israel's destroyed itself through this. Israel will not survive what it's just done in Gaza. It can't play the anti-Semitic card or the Holocaust card anymore, because look what it's just done to 2.3 million unarmed civilians in Gaza, mainly women and children. And the numbers that they're giving us of the figures that are dead, I think it's far more than that. So many people buried in rubble, and some of the stories that I've got here. I mean, I'll put some incredibly disturbing stuff on some of my podcasts, but I'm not even putting a lot of the main stuff on there because it's just too disturbing, you know. And this is what we're putting up with, and this is what we're doing. This is what our politicians are funding. It's so important.
So for decades, this has been swept under the rug.
Absolutely.
For decades, and humanity's been the West has been sweeping under the rug. But I don't think. Do you think this? Do you think things will be the same now?
No, they can't be. They can't be. I mean, they're going to try. The media will tell you it's the same. The media, but don't listen to the media. The people on the ground in droves are pulling away from Israel. I mean, Israel is losing all public support. It's losing the information war. It's lost in so many ways. So I don't think it will survive, and I think it will recover from this. And I think, you know, what people are seeing is it's waking them up. It's a great opportunity for us to grow up and stand up and call this, because we could stop this anytime we want as soon as we step into our own power and call these parasites we have masquerading as politicians out for what they are. And I think it's important. Absolutely, man. It's one of the most important issues we face in the world today, which is why I've put so much focus on it over the last 3 months. I mean, I've been outraged at what I've been seeing, and no one's been talking about it. And this is a genocide happening in 4K, live streamed. You know, we've got to heal this situation. So I've been putting a lot of focus on it. And yeah, I don't think the paradigm's going to stay the same. I think it's going to shift. I think it's really served to wake a lot of people up to just how corrupt this system is.
Because you were horrified. You know, any normal person would be horrified before with what we've seen 10, 15 years ago. This is on a whole nother level.
Whole nother level. Even with what they did in 2014.
I can't even muster the words to really, at this point, Max, it's very difficult even to kind of put a synopsis on it.
Well, what they did in 2014 was bad enough, but this is just open slather. They've just gone in there. They're decimating the entire country from north to south, bombing churches, mosques, marketplaces, schools, suburban homes, everything they can, telling people to go to safe areas and then bombing them on the way to the safe areas, and then bombing the safe areas, bombing refugee homes. They've pushed everybody down into Al-Sawar at the moment, which is basically a rubbish tip. And it's the size of Heathrow Airport. You've got 2.3 million people crammed in there, or less than that now. They've probably killed, a third of them now, all just crammed into this area. And they keep telling them to go over here and go over there and go over there to these safe zones, and then they bomb them. We're telling them to leave, but they've got all the borders closed, so they can't leave. So they're giving all this propaganda to the West, saying we're trying to help them, we're sending in aid supplies, and also they're not sending in any aid trucks. So Hamas is hijacking all the aid trucks, but in the same breath, I'll tell you they've sent in 10,000 aid trucks, and Hamas is hijacking 10,000 aid trucks? Well, they're hiding them in tunnels. It's a lot of aid trucks. It's ridiculous. Some of the stuff they're saying is ridiculous. It's obviously ridiculous. It's obviously a lie. And so many people are seeing it now. So I think the paradigm's going to shift. I think people are going to realise, you put all this on top of COVID, and now they've got disease X that they're already creating a vaccine for, but they don't even know what the disease is yet. You can't make this shit up. It's gone from the sublime to the ridiculous, and even the most programmed and the most asleep are sort of looking at this going, hang on a minute. This doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think it's shifting to paradigm. And we've got the Palestinian people to thank for that, the sacrifice that they've made. And we can't let that go unnoticed, and we can't let this just go by the wayside. We've got to focus on this issue, and we've got to see how it applies to the world we live in, and how it applies to our own governments, and how we can change things.
Yeah, Max don't know where to start, where to end on this issue. Unbelievable. We're just all praying that the killing stops first and foremost, and then we can sort the rest out.
Well, they don't intend it to. They intend to exterminate them all and repopulate. There's even one woman who's a settler, the head of the settler thing. She's saying we need to eradicate and erase all of Gaza so the settlers can see the sea, because it's a romantic thing to want to do. It's bizarre, the mentality,
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Look, this is a biblical, world-changing, paradigm-shifting event.
It is,
Like-
but we've
like
got
it
it.
or
We've
not.
got this, man. We've got it. Like with everything that's happening, even the positive energy here and the whole shift of everything. Like I was saying in my talk, if we just decide to use this as an opportunity to grow up, then we got this. We got it. We can move this into the world that we want. While they're trying to lock us down into slavery, it's becoming so obvious that all we have to do is say no and communicate and link with each other. I said back in 2008, the most important thing you can do is get back in touch with your life skills and put common unity back into the word community. We stand together as one force. They've got nothing they can do about it, you know. So, and I think it's coming to that. And I think people are seeing their own power, and we got this. You know, we're birthing a new world, and birth is always a painful process. That's just the way it is. But we're birthing that new world now, and we can do it. We'll get through this.
We were talking about conflict resolution with Jonathan before that, and you know, he's talking about the altitude. He says sometimes you have to get altitude to look down from a higher perspective, and there's no borders from space.
Exactly.
You know, we have borders, of course, because we need to organize here on the ground. We have our legacy for nation states, but really, at the end of the day, when you go up there and you're looking down on the terrain of Earth, you can't see the borders.
Exactly.
You can't see black. You can't see white. You can't see Arab.
Exactly.
There's nothing. There's people living down there.
Exactly.
And I think that's a place. I think we're getting there, and it's sad. It is just horrifying that it takes something like this to get us there. But
That's how far the human race has fallen, brother. That's how far our consciousness has fallen. But you know, again, you know, sometimes you've got to be shocked into wakefulness, and you know, birth is a painful process.
Yeah, and so we're back to it all comes back to the theme of Anarchapulco 2024, Reborn. So what a choice.
Wasn't it incredible that Jeff named it Reborn before the hurricane and before any of this, before Gaza, before any of this happened? He said, "Oh, Reborn, we call it Reborn." And all the crew are going, "I don't know about that title." And now after all this, they're going, "Fucking nailed it. You just nailed it," you know.
Yeah.
And even this is the energy here, because there's been a lot of, you know, stuff going on with Anarchapulco and stuff, but the energy here this year is incredible. It's amazing. It's the best Anarchapulco, I think, that I've been to since 2018, maybe the best one that I've been to.
Yeah,
It's
I've been inspired just by the ideas I've heard and the solutions, the innovation, the thinking, the big, what they call blue sky thinking. There's a lot of blue sky thinking going on here,
Yeah.
and that's not it's not easy to find that.
No, and it's been an organic, natural thing. No one's tried to develop it. They haven't come here. We're going to educate you into thinking a new way. We've just come here and been ourselves. And everyone's just dropped their own guard and they're being themselves. And it's just this big organic connection that's been happening. It's amazing.
And there's also debate here. I see people. There's a lot of people that maybe see issues and things differently. They're having dialogue.
Yeah.
It's open. It's cool.
They're not arguing. They're not screaming. They don't want to fight each other. They're listening to each other's ideas. It's really, really good, man.
People
It's
having
really good.
conversations. So this is a great place, you know, for positive things to come out of.
Yeah,
And
it is, brother.
Yeah,
It's an honour to be here and it's an honour to be included in so many years. I've been coming to this for so long now. And it's been great, and it's just getting better and better. I hope he keeps it going. He's talking about this might be the last one, you know, because, I mean, Jeff loses so much money on all these events. People say Jeff Berwick's a scammer, he's this and that. He loses money on every single Anarchapulco event, and he's a millionaire. He doesn't have to do this shit. He could just go off and sail off and let the world fall and fade and do whatever, but he's trying to make a difference, so good on him. And then this event is living proof of that, just how dedicated he is, so...
So before we wrap it up, I really appreciate you, both of you guys, joining us here
Oh, absolutely, man.
in your busy schedules. It's
It's been crazy. I don't really have a busy schedule with the bar, though. It just unfolds, and I just kind of go along with the flow.
Got
So.
to make sure the stock arrives.
Well, I don't even have to worry about that. They all do that. I've got the 4 partners who I don't have to do anything except walk around and say, "Welcome to the Crow House."
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
You got nice staff as well.
Yeah.
Some of your team. Max, you're still active. You're still putting stuff out. You're still in the conversation. Where can people find your work? What channels are you not censored from?
I'm censored from everywhere. I'm censored from Facebook, from LinkedIn, from Spotify, from YouTube, from iCloud, from iHeart, from iTunes, or everywhere, LinkedIn, everywhere I'm censored. But you can find me on BitChute. You can find me on Odyssey. You find me on Vigilante TV. You find me on Rumble. You find my website, thecrowhouse.com, which is an old HTML website, real clunky. I don't go WordPress or any of that sort of shit. I just keep it that way. It doesn't look good on a cell phone. You'll thank me later. You know, so
It's the classic HTML look.
yeah, it's just an old clunky website, and I love it. I build every pixel on that site. I don't feel like changing it to WordPress or anything, but yeah, I mean, you'll find me there, and I'll keep going till the wheels fall off. Just keep talking while it needs to be done. Encouraging people to ask questions. I always believe if you can encourage people to ask the right questions, the truth will present itself to them. You can't tell people the truth. They won't believe you. They'll bark, they'll arc up, you'll have an argument. But if you can encourage them to ask the right question, they'll have an epiphany. Real truth must be realised. And if you can encourage them to ask the right question, they'll come back to you and they'll start telling you things you already know. And that's a fantastic moment when that happens. So that's a lot of what I do, and I'll keep going till the wheels fall off. I mean, you can't just sit idly by and look at this without saying something about it, you know. So, but again, lead by example in what you do. Be the best you can possibly be. Be a joy to be around. Be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, and ripple that out to the people around you, and that will change them, and then they will change the people around them. That's how to change the world. It's not through revolution. It's not through protest. It's not through any of that stuff. It's just by you changing yourself and being the best version of yourself that you possibly can, and influencing other people to become that as well. That's how we do it, you know. I'm firmly convinced there's only really one of us here. It's just this collective consciousness, you know, different frequencies of God, whatever you want to call it, you know. And that's how we change things, coming to that awareness and that respect. That's why I finish every radio show with In Lakesh, I am another yourself. You know, if I can respect myself enough to see you properly, then I'm going to see myself in you, and what's not to respect, you know? Even if you have a different idea, that's great. There's the saying, you know, I don't like you, so I need to spend more time with you because I need to find out what that reflection is in me, you know? Yeah. And that's the way to change things, brother. And that's what we're doing here, and that's what's so good about this place and this event.
There's nothing wrong with the world, as they say. We're just having a really bad conversation sometimes. But thank you, Max. Max
My pleasure, brother. My pleasure.
Much appreciated. And David, just give a shout out to where people can follow you and how to get in touch with you.
I can be found on Twitter, and it's The Real Nature Boy. So just type that in. That'll come on my page. My Naughty by Nature with Nature Boy page lasted 30 days. Yeah, so it might pop up, but don't ignore it. That's a dead page. I got suspended. So The Real Nature Boy on Twitter. Also, my show is on Rumble, and it's Naughty by Nature with Nature Boy, and Naughty is spelled N-A-U-T-I as in nautical. Mm-hmm. So remember nautical because it's very fitting for who I am. My audio podcast can be found on all the major podcast du jours. Just go out there, listen to the show. If you like it, please leave me a comment. If you hate it, leave me a comment, because on my show, hate listeners are welcome. I run an inclusive show, gentlemen. So that's where I can be found, and I want to thank you, Patrick. I want to thank you, Max. Like I said earlier, I'm
jealous. I'm jealous you're on all those podcast platforms still.
Not for long.
Get him on as a guest. Maybe he might get banned.
You'll get banned, I'll tell you.
And your street cred's just going to shoot up, David.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
That's how it works in the new economy.
Yeah, exactly. Street cred, baby.
People have me on YouTube. They get strike against their channel just for interviewing me. So you got to watch that.
It's called the boomerang. It's the boomerang economy.
I ain't afraid. I'm not afraid, man. Bring it on. Bring it on, brothers. Bring it on.
That's cool. The spirit. That's the spirit of Anarchapulco 2024. Max Igan, David Alcock, really appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Lovely to talk to you again, Patrick. Really good to see you, man. It's been too long.
We're going to close out the podcast lounge right now, down in the VIP, back of the Secret Garden. So great to see you guys. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch up. Stay in touch.